Welcome to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show, created and hosted by Scott Knudsen to explore the crossroads of horses and business. On today's show, Scott visits with Israeli equestrian champion Nancy Zeitlin. Now here's your host, Scott Knudsen.
Hi, and welcome to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. Thank you so much for joining us today. Whether you're listening to us on the radio on KCAA, the NBC affiliate out in California, or if you're watching our podcast on one of our many platforms, we appreciate you tuning in and watching and listening to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. Today, we have a very special guest, Nancy Zeitlin. Nancy is American-born. She's an Israeli equestrian champion. She had an incredible professional career, and then she went over to Palestine and educated and built their team. And now there's a documentary called Ingrained that's winning awards all over the world. Nancy, thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm just delighted to be here. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure.
Oh, it's such an honor to have you on the show. So we met in Dillon, Montana, the Human Horse and Nature Conference in Dillon, Montana. And it was a Montana Center for Horsemanship that invited us up there. And your documentary was one of the major movies that was there. And I was blessed enough to speak. And it was in conjunction with the University of Montana Western. And that's kind of where we met. It is where we met. And
that is where we met. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sorry.
I remember sitting on the bleachers looking at horses with you, and you're next to me, and we just started talking horses. And I'm like, this is such a cool conference. You know, you're living in Israel, I'm in South Texas, and we're in Montana because of the horse.
Yeah, and you drove. I got to fly in an airplane. You drove all the way from Texas. When you told me that you drove all the way, I almost fell off that bleacher. It's pretty good we weren't sitting too high up on the bleacher. But yes, Unreigned is a wonderful documentary that was made about my life. It was made by the co-producers and co-directors Marsha Rock and Naomi Gutman-Bass. And it was accepted to the Equus International Film Festival that was part of the conference in Montana. And I'm going to let you tell all of our viewers and listeners how many prizes it won.
It was,
if you remember.
So it won Best Film. It won Cinematography. It won Best Script. And also you just won an award in Germany for Best Long Documentary. So it's winning all over the place. And what's that like, going into the movie theater or a movie studio and seeing your life on the big screen and having people watch you? Yeah,
weird. Okay, but I'll just give a little bit of background. The film was actually completed. I think it was completed maybe 1 month or just a couple of weeks before COVID broke out all over the world. And we had all these, hopes of going to real life festivals. Nobody knew what COVID was at the time. And then, as everybody knows, everything closed down. And then for about 1.5 years, we've been going online to film festivals and doing Zoom question and answers after, people have a chance to look at the film. And doing it live in a theater. Montana was the first time it was live in a theater. And it was really, really, it was like going to the movies, but your own movie. It was so much fun.
It would have had to be. It's just an incredible story. And I remember after the conference that day, you and I took the ride over to University of Montana Western to the movie where they were going to show your movie. And it still makes me laugh today because as a Southern, country guy, I'm thinking, we'll get out and we'll walk you to the door, and we didn't know where it was. And you said, I made it from Israel to Palestine every day. I'm sure I can find a door. And I thought that was the funniest thing. But it was so neat to watch people that haven't seen the documentary.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll explain a little bit later about the Israel and the Palestine part.
Yes.
But yeah, when you have to go through the Palestinian Armed Forces and the Israeli Defense Forces and across a war zone, then I think finding the theater in the campus of Montana University, it wasn't all that challenging.
It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. So I guess let's talk growing up. So when you grew up, did you know horses were going to be your thing? Horses.
Oh, I knew that way back when. I think pretty much like most horse people. Well, with me, it happened when I was around 3 or 4 and I was playing with all the animals we play with, collecting caterpillars and stray cats and everything. And my mom always reminds me that she asked me, why do I spend so much time with animals? So I said, they're just nicer than people. So when you're, and then we had, of course, the unbelievable Tempo Grandin at the conference. And she was such a backup to this feeling that all of us have about this connection with animals. So yeah, horses came in a little bit later when I was 6, but I knew, like so many of us, Scott, like so many of us know, we just know, and that's
Right.
it.
Yeah.
And you're hooked for life. That's it.
Absolutely. So when you started riding, did you know you had the natural talent to build on to get to this level, or did you just want to ride a horse and then it just kind of took off from there?
I think just like every other little girl and boy, I just wanted to ride a horse. To this day, a lot of times, parents will ask me, do you think my son or my daughter has talent? And I really just, I dump that question. I don't even answer it. I say, if they love horses and they're good with horses and they work hard, talent can kick in. And yeah, some people are more talented than other, but it's just so much about hard work and loving it and loving the animals and loving doing this as a way of life.
Absolutely. The hard work part, but it's really not, to me, I just love being down there at the barn riding and working and taking care of them. It's just a passion. So,
Yeah.
and I'm so glad that there's so many young people and there's so many people that's maybe never ridden a horse that are going to see you and hear this story and want to. And that's why this is so important. So what was your progression in Israel, without giving too much away of the documentary? I still want to talk a little bit about the life, because your life is so much more than just that documentary. That's what's so incredible.
Yeah, I think it was pretty challenging for Marcia and Nomi to put 63 years into 63 minutes.
Absolutely.
There was so much stuff going on there. And I think they had a really big job, and I think they did a great job. But just I'll give a really brief outline. I started riding when I was 6 in San Diego. And then when I was 9, our parents, I've got 4 siblings, 2 brothers and 2 sisters. And Scott, I want to tell you, we were so happy in San Diego. We had everything. We had a we had a nice house and a swimming pool and horses. And one of my brothers was the champion of California in tennis. And then my dad had a good job. And then when I was 9, our parents told us that we're going to Israel. And I just thought, what the heck? You got to be kidding. We're fine. Why are we going to Israel? So this was a lifelong dream of my mom. And my dad really loves my mom, so he went along with it. And we were all schlepped to Israel when I was 10. And way back then in Israel, the horse scene was not anything that you'd recognize now. It was based on these legendary figures that were either coming out of the British Mandate, style of riding then, or ex-cavalry officers from the Eastern European armies. And that was the beginning way back then in 1968. And but by then I already knew I wanted to be, or at least try to be, a champion rider. And by the time I was 16, I was sure that I wanted to be Israel's first Olympic equestrian. So I set my sights in the 1984 Olympics, and I almost made it. I was training in Holland with the trainer of the Dutch Olympic team. And the year was I started there in 1982, made it up to Prix Saint George with the horse we had. And then we needed another $250,000 to buy a horse that was, good enough to make it to the 1984 LA Olympics. And at that time, there was a war going on in Israel, and the funds were just not available. So I came back in 1983. And followed by my soon-to-be first husband out of a number of husbands. And then, it was just like really the equestrian sports in Israel, there were dressage and jumping were really in their infancy. And it all took off from there. my professional career.
Right. It's such an incredible story. Just to that level is an incredible story, and it just keeps going as you're writing.
Yeah. Scott will be right back with more from Nancy Zeitlin.
Hi, I'm Scott Knutson, host of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. Today, we're going to talk about something I'm really passionate about. Those that know me know I love my coffee. Those that don't, now you know I do. And we've been working on this for several months, and we wanted to get it just right. And we don't put our name on anything unless we feel 100% certain it's the best product we can get. And we've done it. I really believe we've done it. We've created a coffee line, 13 great flavors. I'm going to show you 3 of them. We have K-Cups in all 13 flavors. Here's a Jamaican Me Crazy. It's just a really great coffee. Everyone has great logos. It has a brand, the same brand that's on our horses, our trailers. You know that brand means something, and we wouldn't put it on here if it wasn't good coffee. We have whole bean. This is a great Honduran blend, and it's a whole bean coffee. We have whole bean in all 13 flavors. And then we have a ground coffee. This is a really great one. My wife and I really like this a lot, loved it. So we named it after our daughter, Haley's Blend. Everyone has the packaging and the logo of the show, our brand, and I hope you like it. I really believe you will. And we're going to have more flavors coming out soon. We're going to have the pumpkin spices, and then we're going to go to peppermint after that. And please send us your suggestions as well. You can find it at cowboyentrepreneur.shop. Think coffee shop. Cowboyentrepreneur.shop. Thank you so much.
So how did you know that I'm going to go help this other country? How did you say Palestine? I'm going to go over there and help. How did that come together?
Okay, so it was in 1999. By then I was divorced. Let's put that on the shelf. And I was also a single mother of my firstborn son, Eden. No, we're going on to that period. Yeah, no, I was divorced. Sorry, I get confused with all the divorces. I was already divorced twice. I'm so sorry. You know, it gets confusing. So
hey, as long as you remember the horses' names, that's all that matters.
Exactly, Scott. Yeah. That's what people don't understand, you know. It's like in my kitchen, I have this little sign. It says missing husband and dog, reward for dog. So that's
yeah.
So let me just get my marriages and divorces straight. Okay, all so right. My first husband was a non-Jewish Dutchman who I met in Holland at the end of 1983. He followed me back to Israel, and that was a big horse-based love story that ended after about 9 years. And then I had one child out of wedlock. And then my second husband was a ultra-Orthodox Hasidic Jew. And I moved into that community for a while. There's a whole big story behind that. But that was my ultra-Orthodox period. I had a wig and, you know, clothes up to here and thick stockings and everything. That marriage lasted 6 months. So a while after that, a few years after that, I was a single mother of 2 boys. One was 7, Eden, and Liel was 4. And I got this offer to come and train at the Jericho Equestrian Club in Jericho, which is within the Palestinian Authority territory. For people who are listening, peace accords or the Oslo Accords were signed between the Palestinian Authority and the government of Israel in 1994, 1995. Which led to Yasser Arafat setting up headquarters in Jericho, Ramallah, Jenin, Gaza, etc. So the late 90s were an era of peace. And Jericho had this beautiful, unbeknownst to me, Arafat and one of his horse-loving aides had built this beautiful equestrian facility. I was offered to go down there and be the chief trainer and the co-director of the club, which I did because, you know, I love a good adventure.
Sure.
And, you know,
yes, you did.
I'll try anything. I'll try anything once or twice or 3 times. But, you know, just to explain this was an era of peace. And that's how that started.
Well, just incredible. I think in the documentary, just seeing the footage, it just makes it so real. You know, there was no way to build a set for that. And to have that real footage is just so amazing. It just takes the person watching the documentary there. And it was really special to watch. I couldn't imagine what it was like to actually live that life.
Well, I think it really gets the viewer, it really gets you in the guts, because, you know, on the one hand, horses are all about peace and love and harmony and cooperation, and horses build these amazing bridges between people. And then, you know, and the footage that's in the documentary is just a fragment of everything that was going on in our region and in my life and in Israelis' lives and in Palestinians' lives. And it's just, you know, and it's interesting to hear what you're saying, because the visuals, just even though they're just a fraction of what was really going on, they're pretty hard hitting. And the film, I think, does a beautiful job of like, you know, taking the viewer back and forth between, you know, oh my God, this is a real bloodbath over there. And there she is teaching Palestinian kids how to ride horses, you know, heels down and sit straight.
Yes.
Well, there's, you know, explosions all over the place.
It's amazing to watch. And I could not imagine what it was like to actually cross the border with 2 kids and to go into that. But it's amazing your bravery. But the horse just put it together. You know,
yeah, horses put it all together. And I think in the award giving ceremony in Montana that we just attended, when I got up to the podium, and I, you know, it was like this Academy Oscar Awards, but I hadn't prepared a speech or anything. And I thought, now what do I say? And I just spoke from my heart. And I said, you know, I've been waiting for 2 months to come to Montana to spend 3 days with horse people, and just sitting there looking at everybody in that wonderful ceremony, you know, with this wonderful dinner. And then I said, it's not horse people, it's my people. And these are people like you that I've never met before.
Right.
And we talked about this before, and I think everybody felt the same way. These are my people. Mm-hmm. Horse people are my people. And that's the way it was in Jericho. And that's the way it's always been for me, and I'm sure for you and everybody traveling around the United States of the world. You know, we're just our people. Horse people are just our people.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a special group for sure. And the people were there for the right reasons. And when you gave your speech, you didn't know it wasn't written. It was beautiful what you said. And
thank you.
But it was well deserved. And I thought the movie or the documentary itself was just so beautiful the way it was put together. It really did put you in that moment without the danger that you experienced. So what was it like when you would cross the border with your 2 boys and you knew you were going over there to train and educate other kids and other adults to ride a horse?
Well, I'll just give a little bit of background, you know, to that
Please.
As well. Before the outbreak of violence, it's called Intifada in Arabic. It was the second Intifada. It broke out in September 2000. And as you can see in the film, just all hell broke loose. And within days, the whole region was a bloodbath, violence on both sides. And the Jericho that had been open until then, actually a casino had been built in Jericho. Gambling is illegal in Israel. So this beautiful casino had been built in Jericho. And 5,000 or 6,000 Israelis a day were going down to Jericho just to gamble their money away and spend their money. And all of a sudden, everything stopped. And the army encircled Jericho. But again, there were reasons for it. There was violence going on both sides. And so Jericho was sealed off. And then I had to make a decision if I'm going to keep doing my day job. Mm-hmm. Because it was this funny, not funny, it was this weird juxtaposition of this is my job, this is my work, these are the people I work for and with, and I believe in this. I believe in building bridges through the equestrian community. Absolutely. And once Jericho was sealed off, it was illegal. Jericho is part of Area A. According to the Oslo Accords, Area A is an area that's under the Palestinian Authority jurisdiction and sovereignty in many ways. So for 9.5 years after that, I was breaking the law. So I had to actually go to the outskirts of Jericho, park my car, and as you can see in the film, walk across this no man's land with Israel Defense Force jeeps and soldiers and officers and tanks patrolling the area. So it was this liminal existence, because there's so much hate on this side, right, and there's so much hate on the other side, and just all those years were like living on this razor's edge of this conflict. Like I said in Montana, the American president has yet to be born. Well, I hope not, but I hope the American president will be born that can help the two sides here get out of this terrible situation. But it's got to be one of the worst conflicts and ongoing conflicts. And I was just going down there to do my thing with horses and people. Right. So yeah, it was life-threatening.
And I couldn't imagine doing it for that long with two boys, and just taking them across and work with horses and work with another country, and then come back and then do it again. Just amazing. And as you began the training after your first year to the 8-9 year range, did you just see the equestrian team grow and the people be attracted?
I actually have a picture. I just want to show two pictures here.
Oh, please do.
This is the, wait, let's see if you can see this well. This is actually the basketball field that was next to the equestrian center.
Wow.
And this was, in the back, if you can see in the back, you can see the mountains of Jordan. Yeah. So anybody who knows where Jericho is, it's in the gorgeous, gorgeous Jordan Valley. And then you've got the mountain range of Israel on the west and the Jordanian mountains on the east, and then the Dead Sea. So that was a demonstration that we gave during an event there. And that's the Palestinian flag, and that's Yasser Arafat, the chairman of the previously PLO, Palestine Liberation Organization, and then president of the Palestinian Authority. And talking about 1 year, this was pretty much my group after 1 year.
Oh my!
So this is, it's wonderful. It's in the arena at the Jericho Equestrian Club. So this is one of the first competitions we had, and the whole thing about wearing white shirts and ties and everybody with decent riding pants and helmets, that was it. That was a first. That was a huge, huge accomplishment. So first team went to compete in Jordan after approximately a year and a half after I started there. And that was our first time abroad. And the big times abroad were in the middle of the 10-year period, 2005, 2006, when we actually traveled to the Emirates, to Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And we also traveled to Algeria for competitions. And then there I was, the Jewish Israeli trainer of the Palestine equestrian team, but kind of incognito as an American.
It's so fascinating. It's so fascinating to hear that. And everybody in their own circle think they're competitive, or they might be, the top. But when you hear these stories, it just kind of opens it up to the world. And I remember in the documentary something you said when the team was traveling, and they might have not had the fanciest uniforms or the most modern uniforms. They said, focus on the ride, focus on the horse, focus on your job. And I love that. And that's so important for anyone in our industry or wants to be in our industry. You don't have to have the fanciest stuff, just as long as you can ride better and your horse is trying and y'all are in unison. It's so powerful.
Exactly. And I think, again, the juxtaposition was so extreme, coming with my team. Like I say in the film, they had on, plastic helmets and rubber boots and $20 pants that somebody donated. And I told them, don't forget to put on a belt. I mean, you've got to look decent. Yes. And then you go to the Emirates, with all these wealth beyond belief.
Sure.
And I think that really, really put a focus on what you just mentioned, which is, okay, we all know that it can be a very expensive sport. We all know how much it costs to be at the top levels, but that should never, ever, ever stop anybody from riding and being involved with horses. And actually, the young man at the time, Khalid, he's in the film, the young man that actually came from Jericho to the Emirates, he was actually born and raised in the Jericho refugee camp.
Wow.
So this is a dark-skinned boy, born into poverty, raised in poverty. And then at the age of 15, he came to the stables just to clean stables. And he ended up representing his country in the United Arab Emirates. So everybody out there, just go for it.
Absolutely. And that visual of walking around the facility and all the thousands of people looking at them, that had to be such an accomplishment. I couldn't imagine what that felt like for him or for you or for the team.
Well, it was, again, I thought that was the competition in Algeria.
Mm-hmm.
And Algeria was holding the Pan-Arab Games, which is the equivalent of the Arab Olympics. And they have all the, like 20 or 30 different sports. And the opening ceremony of the whole thing was on the evening of Yom Kippur. I'll just explain to our viewers and our listeners. Yom Kippur is the most solemn and somber and saddest day in our Jewish calendar. And again, it's just like, when I was looking at the film, actually, when I was shown the first draft of it, I thought, no way, this lady didn't do this. And no way, she didn't do that. And it was about me, and I know that I did it. So anyway,
yes.
So there's the evening of Yom Kippur, and all of Israel is shutting down. And I'm in Algeria, and I don't even think at that time that, or even maybe until now, Israelis can enter Algeria. And like you see in the Olympics, when you walk into the stadium and everybody starts cheering. So there's 50,000 Arabs in there. For me, it's the evening of Yom Kippur, and they all started chanting in blood and in spirit, "We shall redeem you, Palestine," because they were so excited to see the Palestinian team. And Scott, let me tell you, it was one of the weirdest moments ever, because I was saying to myself, I did it. I got this team here. I am the trainer of the first Palestinian equestrian jumping team. But this is really weird.
Yeah.
I should be at home with my family praying and starting the Yom Kippur fast. So there was a lot of liminal and extreme things going on.
That one part of your life is just amazing, because you do have that inner fight with yourself. Do I need to be home, or do I need to be with the team? And you lifted that team and gave them a generational gift.
Yeah. And I think the lesson, well, my kids didn't have a very easy time. I mean, I can't imagine being my own kid. It must have been really, really challenging having a mom. They turned out great, by the way, but I think they had a few challenges along the way. And I think one of the main lessons that I taught my kids, and I think I would like to share with people, is that things are complicated. Things are really, really complicated. And each and every one of us just wants to stay in our comfort zone. So, most Israelis want to stay in their comfort zone on this side of the conflict, and most Palestinians, it can be on any conflict, any situation, any religion. We all just want to stay, nice and cozy with what we are familiar with. And I think that one of the biggest lessons is this is complicated. Put your ears to the ground and listen carefully, because we're not, whoever you are or your group is, you're not the only person around, and you're not the only group around. So I think that's a big lesson.
It's a huge lesson. You're absolutely right. And there's always somebody that you can learn from, and you never know where that next incredible rider or teacher is going to come from.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really special. So
I'd like to show you from that. Something I'd like to show you from that period.
Yes, please.
So again,
please.
Yeah, I do not. The politicians and the leaders have not yet been able to make this happen. But let me just show this. Can the camera see that well?
Yeah, absolutely. It's beautiful.
Okay, so it's a beautiful GPA helmet. It was
Yes.
given to us in Jericho. We actually got 3 helmets. The first one had just the Israeli flag. One had just the Palestinian flag. And this is a one of a kind in the world here. I'm holding it in my own hands.
That's so
And
awesome.
it's a unique design. There is no other one like it. It was given to us by Michelle Finkel, who's the owner of GPA. And it's kind of like the Palestinian flag, and the Israeli flag combined.
That's so
And
beautiful. So beautiful.
It's wonderful. And the world is full of people that call me naive and worse names. But I'm this is a respectable show, right? I'm not going to go into all the names I've been called.
Absolutely, but it just shows how short-sighted they are, because what you're doing matters,
Yeah.
They can call names all they want, but what you did is positive actions, and that's all that matters in the world. And you did it.
Yeah.
And
So I don't go into politics, and I don't want to go down that path at all. But again, getting back to our beloved horses, that's the magic that horses do.
Absolutely.
If horses could create this through my work, and they're inviting me and hiring me to train them and accepting me, because this was a pretty rough two-way street for both sides.
Mhm.
A lot of people talk about my courage and my this and my that, but you have got to look at the other side too, and say and be aware that for them, Israel is the enemy, without getting into politics or security. And this was for them to, especially after the violence broke out, the Intifada broke out, for them to employ, again, a Jewish Israeli woman, Jewish and Israeli, and a female in a very male dominated society. That was pretty big.
Absolutely.
For them as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when you would leave, that was a dangerous trip home, but for them to stay was dangerous as well, because what you just said.
Well, what do you mean? For the Palestinians? They were inside Jericho.
Right. For them to stay there and know that there were some people that maybe didn't agree with the decision, to have that, to be in Palestine and to have those people there, maybe not happy with who they hired to be their teacher or their coach.
Yeah, it was a big challenge for them. I mean, they had to, I don't want to say stick to their guns, because there's way too many guns in the Middle East. But definitely I think it was life-threatening for a number of people.
Yeah.
And I think when the trips abroad together with the team started, I wasn't really in the inner loop of what was going on behind the scenes, but I do know that the host Arab countries, were not thrilled about my nationality and my religion. And my Palestinian co-workers and employers, all the way up to the highest levels, to the best of my knowledge, they said, she's our trainer, and if she doesn't come, we don't come. So that's a huge thing.
Strong statement.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. Scott will be right back with Nancy Zeitlin. For more information on Scott Knudsen, the Cowboy Entrepreneur, visit us online at cowboyentrepreneur.com.
Hi, I'm Scott Knudsen, host of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show, heard on KCAA, Wednesdays, 6 p.m. Pacific. I'd like to talk to you about something I'm very passionate about. Those that know me know I love my coffee. In the morning, afternoon, and even late in the evening, I enjoy a good cup of coffee almost any time of the day. Now, my team at the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show has been working for several months on creating and introducing our own brand of coffee. We wanted to make sure that we got it just right. We don't want to put our name on anything unless we're 100% certain that it's the best product available, and we've finally done it. We have created a wonderful line of coffees, 13 fantastic flavors offered in whole bean, ground, and K-Cups. Any way you like to brew your coffee. Now, each of our coffees carries our brand, the very same brand that we put on our horses, our trailers, and our chaps. so you know that this is a quality product. And we only use 100% Arabica beans, the very best beans available. Just listen to some of these wonderful blends and flavors. Jamaican Me Crazy, Honduran San Marcos, Chocolate Cherry Amaretto, Breakfast Blend, and my very favorite, Haley's Blend. A coffee so good, we named it after my daughter. You can order these coffees today by going online to cowboyentrepreneur.shop. That's cowboyentrepreneur.shop. And if you order today, you can get an extra 10% off your final purchase just by entering the promo code Cowboy on checkout. Remember, that's promo code Cowboy for an extra 10% off. Just go to cowboyentrepreneur.shop to order your coffee today.
Maybe not moving on, but let's go back a little bit. So when you were riding, you held a 20-year record for jumping, correct? Can we talk?
I did.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. See if there's maybe a picture and for all of us.
Okay, yeah, there's a picture.
Awesome.
I'm prepared.
Awesome.
So there were no European warm bloods in Israel up till the early 80s. And then you can see the picture behind me over there. That's actually Dutch Delight. She was a 3-year-old Dutch warm blood, the first Dutch import to Israel. And that was the beginning of the equestrian scene in Israel, you know, moving into the modern era of warm bloods and a higher level of dressage and jumping. So the 80s saw this wave of imports from Holland and then, you know, Germany, Belgium, and so on and so forth. And one of the horses that was imported by a friend of mine was this broken down, neurotic chestnut mare with 2 bow tendons. And so he brought her to me and he said, would you like to train? So, who would say no to an offer like that? You know, broken down, thin, neurotic, and 2 bow tendons, just exactly what we all want in our life.
Absolutely.
Right? So I started working with, couldn't wait. Yeah, best offer I ever had in my life. Yeah, me and my marriages and this chestnut mare. So anyway, her name was Gloria. And for 3 years, every jumping competition I rode in, I had a basketball score. I swear, Scott, it was always, I had a 20 faults. If I wasn't eliminated, it was up in the 20s or the 30s or something. 4th year, we won everything. We won the national championships and an annual competition that we have in memory of one of our friends, Rami Shalgi, who was killed in the war while I was training in Holland. And we won that. That was a prestigious show. And then I went ahead and set the high jump record for Israel. And here's a picture.
Oh, that's so cool.
Can everybody see it well?
Oh, yes, that's beautiful.
So that's Gloria.
Oh, wow.
And that's me being brave and courageous.
Absolutely.
And that was, talking about challenges and stuff. I think anybody that has anything to do with horses gets so much more satisfaction out of a challenge like that than buying or being bought a ready-made horse.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That such a beautiful picture. So how tall was the jump?
Well, I'm not good in feet and inches. It was 1.75 meters.
Oh, wow.
So that was big.
That's huge. So when you're going over that jump, do you see the other side or the ground, or you just see an elevation before you drop?
I don't know what I saw, but I just hope that Gloria saw that there's soil on the other side of this jump.
There you go. Yeah.
She trusted me enough. And really, there were 3 attempts. The first attempt I turned away, and the second attempt I got it all wrong. I couldn't have got it more wrong. And she actually stumbled and fell into the jump. So if I had fallen, or if her shoulders or her hindquarters had hit the ground, that would have been elimination. So Providence was with me. And the 3rd jump, we got it all right. And then that record stood for 20 years. And it was actually beaten by a young female rider, super talented. And she jumped, I don't remember exactly which year it was, but it was a 20-year record. She jumped 1.95 meters.
Wow.
this young girl. And I was so proud of her. So I thought, okay, if my record's going to be beaten, then let it be beaten by someone like that.
Absolutely. Wow, that
And
picture was so
also
incredible.
she set that record on a thoroughbred that you wouldn't look twice at. So all fairy tale stories.
Yeah, you never know. That's why, you never turn your nose at anything, you just never
No,
know.
yeah.
You can't see that heart or that spirit sometimes. And those have been some of my favorite horses, are the ones that were real gritty, that just had a lot of try and want to.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
So as far as your favorite horse, would that one be it, or do you have a favorite?
Oh, Scott, that's not a fair question.
That's like, no, it's not. It's not fair at all. It's
No,
not.
that's not fair. I think there's 3 or 4, maybe 5 horses that are in my heart after all these
That's
years,
sweet.
and each one for a different reason. This
Right.
this Dutch mare, she was wild. She would just take you up to a tree and rub you into the tree and get you off, and she was a real difficult one, but she worked out okay. And then there was Gloria with the high jump, and then there was a dressage horse that I almost made it to the Olympics with. So I think there's 4 or 5 horses that each are solid in my heart.
That's wonderful. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. So when you're looking at a horse, what was your breed that your go-to breed for jumping? Did you have
Dutch
one?
warm bloods,
Dutch warm bloods.
European warm bloods. Yeah. So all this big importing of the European warm blood started in the 80s, early 80s. And that's pretty much everybody's go-to breed. And, over the past 10, 20 years, I'm not an expert on breeding, but the sport horses and dressage and jumping it's become such a perfected science, the breeding and the level of the horses that are being bred now and that are in the sport. It's just incredible in dressage and in jumping. And don't ask me about polo or racing or barrel racing, because I have no idea.
No.
I know the quarter horses are littler than European horses, right?
Absolutely. Yes, they are.
There you go.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. So
That's
you're also a
that's the
judge,
extent
right?
of my knowledge.
But that's okay, because they all fit a purpose. They all have their purpose, and that's what makes them so special.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And I'm an FEI level 3 jumping judge, and I'm a national dressage jump and course designer. And for lots and lots of years, I'm not supposed to say my age, right? Or I didn't say my age, right? Okay. So
nobody would ever guess it.
For lots and lots of years, I've been an examiner for instructors and trainer courses in Israel. And I also have a therapeutic instructor's certificate.
Wow.
And now that we got to the show off part, I also did a law degree 2 years ago. I finished that. That was unfinished business. And I just got qualified as a mediator, which is something that I'm hopefully going to get into and succeed in it, because mediation, after all these years, it just feels like, okay, take everything and put it all together to help people in conflict.
That's so special. So I guess let's go to the horse. So you judge, you teach, and you rode. Which one do you have a favorite, or at the time period when you did each one, was that the perfect thing for you to be doing? Because teaching is a generational.
I think the second part of your sentence, I think things are time appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as we get older, there is no way. And there was a long period where I didn't ride very much, and I didn't compete at all, the period in Jericho. And, the years take their toll. And I think you have to be graceful with yourself about it.
Right.
And just to realize that, you're not that young anymore. And as long as you keep on riding, if you want to, then that's wonderful. Just the ability to still be able to ride is wonderful. But the judging and the international judging was very time appropriate, age appropriate. And yeah, so I think everything, in the Bible, it says to everything there is a season and a
Absolutely.
time for every purpose under heaven.
Beautiful.
So same with us. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we were sitting in Montana on those bleachers looking at those horses in the arena, and we were talking, in the back of your mind, were you looking at that horse saying, if he carried himself a little bit different, or judging a little bit, like, do you revert back when you watch horses?
Do I revert back to?
Like when we were watching the horses and they were doing their thing in the arena, we're sitting there talking. And I found myself looking at that horse, the way he carried himself and the way his stride. Do you kind of go back as a judge, or do you look at that horse as a rider, a former rider? How do you?
I think, what we were watching was Ashley Mancuso's yoga demonstration. And I was just overwhelmed by this young woman.
Absolutely.
Ashley, she is amazing. And for me, at that moment, she was the focus of what I was looking at. Her body language with the horses, what she was describing about yoga. And, and then there was one horse that wasn't very patient about being there, and just the whole way she dealt with that. So no, but the horses there weren't moving very much. It wasn't like I was judging them in dressage or anything. And Ashley was just amazing.
Complete control. And I was looking at the horses and I was watching them, how they were getting softer, some of them, except for that one, and how she moved them around. But I was watching that thinking, that's something I can put into my program to make a horse a little bit softer, maybe, So I'm always trying to learn something and get a little bit better, for sure. So being an attorney now, so a lawyer. So what's the degree in? What part of law?
Well, it's a little bit different. I think it's different in Israel than in the United States. What I actually have is an LLB, which is a Bachelor of Law.
Okay.
And in order to become a full-fledged lawyer or attorney, you have to, in Israel, do an internship and then the bar exams. And halfway through my law studies, I was introduced to mediation. And I thought, I don't want to be in an adversarial situation anymore. All these lawyers, they're constantly in these win-lose. No, it's kind of a stereotype because there's all kinds of areas of law. But I thought, I'm not sure I want to continue or be in a win-lose situation. And I think being a competition rider all those years, I mean, some people win and some people lose.
Sure.
And in a competition. So we had enough of that. And just being introduced to mediation, I thought this is right up my street. I want to finish the law degree, which I did, and become qualified as a mediator, and then take it down that path.
I love that. And it just jumped. I was going to ask you, what was more competitive, a law degree or in the horse arena? And by doing the mediation, that makes sense.
That answered the question. Yeah. And people, people are very career oriented or achievement oriented. And when I said I don't want to become a lawyer, they thought I was nuts. And I said, no, I'm not doing this to become a lawyer. I'm doing this because I wanted to do this for 30 years. Having done that, what path do I want to take it down? And it's definitely mediation.
That's awesome.
Awesome. You get mellow eventually. We're supposed to mellow eventually.
Absolutely. and you've been helping people your whole life too. That's just, figured that's where you'd go for sure. So somebody that is maybe not in the horse world, how would you encourage them to get in the horse world? Because if you're not in the industry, it's kind of hard if you're not around the horse.
Yeah. Well, again, Israel is a really small country. And again, coming to Montana and, driving 2 hours just to go to the grocery store, that was a big experience. Well, not the grocery store, but it's so big in the States, especially Montana. Israel is small. So it is not, logistically, it's not difficult at all to start riding. The higher up you go in the levels, the more expensive it gets. But I think, and almost anywhere in the world, I think pretty much anybody can go to their local riding club or pony club, or even just a petting corner with ponies. Right. And that wonderful interview you had with Stephanie, about the
Yes.
Breyer horses. I hope I
Yeah.
pronounced that
You
correctly.
did, Brian. Yeah.
And she, when she just said that the kids just start playing with these sculptures with the Breyer horses, and then they actually go and touch a horse, and then they actually start riding. So I think you and I and every single horse person in the world encourage every single child in the world to get close to a horse.
Absolutely. It's beautiful. Yeah. Be ambassadors for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. So you're an entrepreneur, and a lot of our audience is entrepreneurs that they want to be entrepreneurs. You were a trainer. You've had your own business in the horse world. Now you're an attorney, or you're a lawyer, and there's so many things you've done on the entrepreneur side. What's some advice to somebody with a business or that wants to be in business?
Good question. And I also learned how to say good question when I'm not sure about the answer.
That's awesome.
That's something I picked up from American television.
There
You
you
stall
go.
a couple seconds. That was a great question.
Great question.
Great question, Scott. I'm not quite sure I know the answer because, again, I come from a very, very different country. Israel is different in so many ways from the United States. So I'm not quite sure I can give any entrepreneur advice to anybody. And I will admit here to the world that I'm not a financial genius at all. And I'm one of those people that have not made any wealth financially out of choosing this path.
Right.
So I don't really have any, I've always followed my heart, and I'm going to answer the question that you didn't ask because I don't know the answer to the question that you did ask.
Do it. Yeah, absolutely.
So actually what I'm looking forward to after Unreigned is I'm working with a friend and a screenplay writer and a business consultant. It's all one and the same person. His name is Skip Weissen. He's from San Diego. And we're actually working on trying to get a Netflix series about my life.
Awesome.
Yeah. We both feel that there's more than enough content here for a Netflix series.
Absolutely.
And but that's not the end of the story. The real reason I want to do the Netflix series is in order for that to enable me to make my really big dream come true, which is setting up a equestrian center in Israel for healing. And I'll just mention that therapeutic riding is very big in Israel. But having said that, my vision is for a center that would put together different groups of people that I've already worked with. I've worked with PTSD war veterans and disadvantaged youth and children with cancer. Those are the three things for personal reasons and all kinds of reasons. And I have this vision of a center where I integrate these groups and empower and enable the so-called patients, or the people that are doing therapy, to actually become therapists themselves. So, for example, I worked for a couple of years with the Ethiopian youth at risk here in Israel, and after 2 years of working with them and having them in competitions, then 4 of them actually became instructors. So they actually got a profession. They could make a living out of it. So I can see having this program with youth at risk, then becoming, horse people, experienced horse people, working with the PTSD war veterans, the war veterans working with the kids with cancer, and just integrating this and taking it out of the way that we always look at it, which is the therapist and the patient, or the therapy, and just putting them in a different position in their life. So actually, hopefully, if the Netflix series works and the funding comes in, then that'll be my
That's
big
an
thing.
incredible project. Project. And what's so cool about it is it just keeps going. Even after the documentary, there's just so many great more things that you're doing, and it helps people, and that's so special. And the therapeutic riding is so intense because it works. It absolutely works. And horses have a healing power about them.
I think of the films and the discussions and the people that we met in Montana, there were a few that really swept me off my feet. And one of them, I'm not sure exactly which day it was. One of them was that incredible guy who works with convicts.
Yes.
Did you see that film?
Yes, I did.
That
Yes, I did. Amazing.
That was so inspiring, and the lives that he saves. And then these guys come out and they get themselves set up. The star of that film, I think, became a farrier in California, blacksmith.
Right. Correct.
And then he gives a hand and he gives a leg up to prison inmates to get them out of where they are and get them set on a good path in their lives. And no, there's no end to it. There's a lot of work to be done.
Absolutely. So you got a busy future ahead of you with the new center, working on the center and Netflix, because I'm believing it's going to happen for sure. There's nothing you can't do, for sure.
Thank you. Well, no, it's just when we wish somebody a long life, according to Judaism, we're supposed to live 120 years. So when you have a birthday, then in Hebrew we say Ad 120, which is where you live to be 120. So I'm going to tell everybody I'm 63. So that means that I have 57 more years of stuff to do, right?
Absolutely.
I think to get to 120.
Absolutely.
There's a whole truckload of time left to do stuff.
So much time. But as much as you do, oh my goodness, it's amazing. And it's such a blessing to get to meet you in Montana. And I really appreciate you being on the show today. And I hope to see you soon and talk to you soon.
Well, me too, Scott. I was delighted when you contacted and you said, because when we were in Montana and you said I'd like to interview you, I thought, there's another guy, kind of saying, does he mean it? And you really meant it. And I'm so glad you reached out. And this has been such a pleasure. Thank you.
So much fun. Thanks for everything you do and being on the show. And I can't wait to talk to you soon.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you to all the great sponsors of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. If you or your business is interested in being a sponsor of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show, please call our office at 830-992-1786 or visit our website, cowboyentrepreneur.com.